business, including product management, engineering, product marketing, strategy, innovation, technical program management, and product testing. An alumnus of BITS Pilani and IIM Bangalore, Anuj has held significant positions at companies like Balpix, a dynamic startup in cybersecurity, and Walmart, the Fortune 1 retail giant, and Citrix, a leader in digital workspace technology and cloud services, and McAfee, a globally recognized cybersecurity company, and Quad, a pioneer in publishing software and content automation solutions. He also serves as an advisor to startups focused on cybersecurity and fitness well-being. Sir has authored many books. So his recent book, What is Your Human Edge? 53 Timeless Ideas for Thriving in the Age of AI, provides a guide for navigating the future of work, exploring timeless skills from empathy to adaptability that will set you apart from machines. So beyond his work in the tech industry, Anuj has been recognized as a LinkedIn top voice, is a guest faculty member at Ashoka University, a 25-time full marathon finisher, a professional handwriting analyst, and enjoys sharing knowledge through sketchnoting and visuals. Committed to giving back to the community, he regularly volunteers for industry forums such as NASSCOM and the International Software Product Management Association. So deeply passionate about India's Olympic sports, he actively supports and promotes the NGO Olympic Gold Quest. So really we are very fortunate to have you with us, sir. So on behalf of the organizing committee and Vivekananda Institute of Technology, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you for the kind introduction, ma'am. I was telling ma'am sometime back the topic of these 6 days. I think all of you are very lucky that this is being talked about. This is, both AI and cybersecurity are old enough fields, but we don't get to hear about the intersection of these fields as much, which is there. So I had a privilege of being at Black Hat, which is one of the biggest software testing, cybersecurity conferences. Not this year, the last 2 years. But one of the things which was missing was, even though it was a cybersecurity conference, they didn't talk as much about AI. I think they made some amendments now, so which is a great thing. I think we have a great opportunity in these 6 days. Today is the 3rd day to learn more about things which other people are not spending as much time on. So really kudos to you, ma'am, and all the organizing committee, AICTE college, to organize this as much. I will start. I think I already had you already covered quite a few things, but I do want to share. What happens when one of the most overwhelming time is when someone introduces you, because I was trying to find way to hide here and there when ma'am was trying to share my introduction. So I'll just want to give another perspective on how my career has folded. Just to I won't try and not repeat what ma'am has said about myself. So I look at my career into 3 acts. I'm in the 3rd act right now. The first one was about depth. I was majorly focused on engineering aspect. Cybersecurity was one of the important part of it right from the beginning. I worked in a company like Quark, McAfee, and Citrix, except Quark, which used to be in the publishing software domain. McAfee is known in the cybersecurity space. Citrix is also in cybersecurity, but for the time I was there, I spent quite a bit of time there, around 12 years. They didn't position themselves as a cybersecurity company, but what they used to do, virtualization and all the other products which were there, they were very much catering to the domain of cybersecurity. My Act 2 was about breadth. So when I started, this went on for quite some time, and then in Act 2 I worked in companies like Walmart, Balmix. Oh, that's okay. Give the break time. So Citrix, Walmart, and Balmix. So again, these are, yeah, please. These are focused on cybersecurity, but when I call it breadth, it means that I try to explore different facets of, you don't only look at one problem from engineering lens, then your outlook becomes very narrow to look at it that way. I try to break that in this phase, and I was involved in the various aspects of it. And the third act is where I'm mixing depth and breadth, which I gained, which is I along with my partner, we started this company called as AI and Beyond, which is focused on AI literacy in the organization. So AI literacy means we tell organizations that AI is not future, AI is here, it is happening now in front of our eyes, and in order to not being left behind, you need to start using it, integrating AI in your life right away. So AI is not, literacy earlier used to be reading, writing, and mathematics. Now we say AI is also part of literacy, which is very, very, very important for all of us to understand. And someday, I think I'm here right now, and someday I'll have Act 4, which will emerge. I think none of this was planned, so that will also emerge. But like ma'am said, I think last thing was around working with the Olympic sports. So I do hope, I can apply depth, breadth, etc. to contribute more towards the space. So the idea in the later half of my career was always to do something that I had never done before. So that was the theme that I tried to follow. So enough of me, we'll get to the topic. So, we'll discuss these 6 things today. Hopefully we have enough time to cover that. I'll get started, rather than reading what I've written on the slide. So since we're talking about content monitoring and filtering, okay, before I come to what is content monitoring and filtering, I just want to give you some examples so that you get some idea that this field of content monitoring and filtering is not new. Okay, so all of us have seen print media, newspapers, and newspapers, before anything is printed on newspapers, it goes through a lot of editorial checks, whether what is being printed is right or not. Government guidelines are there, what you can print, what you cannot print. So that is one form of content monitoring and filtering out content which is not necessary to be printed. Second is the post in the previous era. Now we don't use post as much, but we used to use post a lot earlier. So in one incident which happened in my career was, this company Citrix, I worked for 12 years. So when we complete 5 years, we had this option of, from headquarters, they used to send some gift. There were some 5-6 gifts you have to choose, and they used to send. I chose telescope. It came very fine. I think it was some fancy sort of telescope, which I thought I'd use. My friend chose a globe. Okay, globe. I don't know why he chose. Never found it interesting, but he chose. But after a few days, we realized that he didn't get his, the globe that he asked for. And then we tried to find out the reason. We figured out that the customs had taken out the globe, and they had opened the mail which was coming to India from outside, and they saw that in the globe, India's map was distorted. It was like, you normally see, right, the north part in the US, they don't represent always properly. So, and that is another form of content monitoring, that someone is sending you a letter, and and there are some guardrails that someone applies to check that, which was very interesting. Media regulation is always there. You guys watch Netflix, any OTT, if not Netflix, okay, your smile says it all. You don't have to say in front of your everyone. So I think, yeah, so Netflix, there is a lot of content monitoring which happens, right? Whatever we see, it goes through a lot of content checks which is there, right? So there is a media regulation in India, there is Prasar Bharati, there is US, there is FCC, etc., which does that. And library, also there is a lot of classification of content which happens. Have you seen that movie Article 370? Anyone has seen that movie? No? I think so. What they show is that in that movie, they have a section in the library which is only meant for classified content, which is confidential. Only people with access can go. So as you can see, we have been in this field of content monitoring for a long time. So 5 principles that you derive from these examples, which are still applicable in the modern day content filtering, and I'll show you some examples of that. Speak through some example of that. One principle that we learn from modern traditional content monitoring is that it is all about control over access, like who can access what information and when, right? In form of media regulation these days we have, what do you call, certification that this is for certain age group, this is for not for certain age group. So who can control access? Okay, and there are software systems built which helps us do this. Ensuring compliance, so compliance and regulation are always there. So there are laws against what kind of content can be published, what cannot be published, etc. Major aspect of content filtering and monitoring is protection of society or individuals. For example, at our homes, if there are small kids, we want to always make sure that they don't get exposed to the content which they are not supposed to see, right? And there are some software tools which does the content filtering and monitoring there. So then categorizing and labeling is another important part. So library example I gave, somebody went through and manually did the labeling of content that this is confidential, this is not, this can be kept in the public access, this has to be kept in some other place where people cannot come. And fifth principle is adaptability to changing norms. What does that mean? For example, COVID happened, and in YouTube there was a lot of misinformation about vaccine, etc. started coming. So YouTube had to change their algorithms so that they can catch the misinformed content which is there, right? So, and this is not a done deal in today's time, so you always have to adapt to whatever is happening in your surroundings. For example, now US elections are happening, so there is a lot of content monitoring which is happening around this technology called deepfake. So deepfake is you can fake a person's face and voice and generate anything that you want. So there are checks there which are being put on the application, wrong application of technology which was never thought of before. Okay. So these 5 principles normally stand tall when we talk about content, traditional and modern content filtering. Okay. So I'll share some stories because I feel that session like this I could have done it in two ways. One is I would have broken down all the theory, then I would have figured out what the application of the theory is, then I would have created the presentation, etc. I chose a different approach where I looked at, okay, we have content monitoring and filtering. What are the applications in my career that I have seen this? And we can do a deep dive of that because that way I can share some personal stories, experiences around this also. So, like any other technology which has made an impact to our life, much of what you see modern day content filtering and monitoring, it happens invisibly. For example, how many of you see your spam inbox, that whether it really has spam or some original email has also come? Very few of us. Or does someone goes and check every day that spam is there or not? Normally we don't do that, right? You can speak. I think that's okay to share your opinion in the class. Okay? So normally we don't do that because the technology works seamlessly, like a magic. We don't even know that thing like content monitoring and filtering is there because somebody, some engine behind it is doing the classification for us. That's his spam. We don't need to look at it. After 30 days, it gets deleted also without our notice. But that was not always the case. And I'll share one example. So I'll give a brief about this, and then I'll go deep dive into some of these examples as I go. So the company, the world that I experienced most recently was this company called as Baltics. Before I tell what it did, I just want to give a perspective on what happened in United States in 2023. So in United States, there is a body called as SEC. SEC is Securities and Exchange Commission, which is same as SEBI. SEBI, have you heard in India, SEBI? Yeah. So SEBI, what it does, it regulates how the public company should function, etc., and what kind of things. SEBI, one more role SEBI has is that it protects investors' interests. That public company should behave in certain way, so that investors have high degree of confidence on what they do. So SEC does the same job. US has around 6,000 public companies. So what they said was in 2023, so there was a discussion which was going on for a long time, and it became a sort of a law. And the law was that if any company is undergoing a cyber attack, okay, so they have to let the public know and let the SEC know within 4 days of determining materiality of the cyber attack. Okay, a lot of companies go through cyber attack, and a lot of companies don't tell that they have gone through cyber attack. So there was one cement company we used to work with. We didn't used to work with, but I knew that they had an attack, but they didn't declare. Okay, and you cannot do that in a public company because cyber risk is a business risk. Why is cyber risk a business risk? Can anyone tell? Any answer? Like you can say wrong answers are also okay as long as you speak. Company information, right? The data, confidential data that can come. Have you also heard of ransomware? There is something called ransomware. So ransomware, what happens is that if a cyber attack happens, the attackers steal your data, and they say we will give your data back only if you pay us some money. And these money is not like change. So this money they ask in like some $200 million something. So why cybersecurity is a business risk? Because if you are in a ransomware situation in a public company which has to meet the public financial goals, 200 million gone means the stock price will go down, a lot of things will happen. So SEC put this rule, okay, which means that public companies now suddenly had to be aware that cyber attack is happening, and within 4 days they had to determine its attack is material or not. What does material mean? Whether it is significant attack or not, and like that. So that is in order to solve that, you need products which gives you that 360-degree view of cyber risk of your company in a real time. When I say real time, like now, cyber risk changes now is like 9:51 from 12:50. Like something else would have happened which we don't know what has happened. So real time is very important in today's time. So this is what this company used to do. It used to tell at any given point in dollar terms, like dollar or rupee or whatever currency, that your company has a risk of $350 million. And it used to do that with it used generative AI heavily, and I'll show how they used it. And this is a very different type of content filtering. Normally we say content. What do we say content? Like YouTube video is a content, Facebook post is a content. But this is a very different, like your risk parameters are also some sort of a content which gets accumulated and assessed by the generative AI models. Okay. So there was an interesting case that I got involved in when I was at Walmart. I'll tell that story later. But in US, one of the most prevalent problem is gun culture. So people have guns, and a couple of times I've gone, and it's not very uncommon. Like I have met in my last 3-4 visits, at least 3 times I have met a person who was very close to being shot like that. So, and in one case my previous boss, like few years back, he took me to a school. He said like, this building is, closed now because an attack happened there in Florida some time back. Same thing happened in Las Vegas where I was there. One guy told me that his daughter was hiding near that shed. It was very scary to know that this thing is happening. But there are 2 ways to solve this, or many ways to solve this. I'm not getting there. But what companies are doing is they are instituting this automatic weapon detection system to prevent mass shooting. Right? These systems, what they do, they identify a person is having a gun, he has an intent, and they flag it and and so that the securities are alerted. So this is another form of content monitoring which is there. Ma'am talked about the book, this book that I wrote, and this came out this year. So this is not about this book. So book actually exposed me to Amazon has a very thorough content review system which is there. What do you mean by content? The reviews that you put in the for the books in the content. So that goes through a lot of that leverages a lot of AI algorithms inside to to give a perspective on whether it's a right review or not, whether some person has just done it, etc., etc. So I think that is one thing I would like to talk about. And then there is this. Are you aware of Khan Academy? Yeah, you can just raise hand if you don't like to speak. Just raise. Are you aware of Khan Academy? Anyone? Have you heard of Khan Academy? Okay, Khan Academy is a online. We talk about education technology. So it was one of the first companies, and this person is based in US. His name is Salman Khan, not that actor Salman Khan, but he's the guy who. He call him Sal Khan. So he came up with this whole idea of learning via video. So if you go to Khan Academy, there are a host of knowledge which is there. So what this guy did was, when ChatGPT was about to come, like 6 months before, OpenAI team reached out to him and asked him to assess ChatGPT for education purposes. Okay, and that led to development of this tool, which I'll show via some screenshots, and which is called as Khan View. So, content. What is content in this case? Content is, if you are a student, your questions are a content. The way AI respond back, that is a content. So there is a huge application of content monitoring and filtering in this, in an application like this, which I'll just also given perspective on how that works in the background. So these are all related to, because this is related to me because there is this company, institute that we are working with in Goa, who wants to integrate AI tools into their way they teach and way students learn. And that's how we came across this work, and we are trying to decode that. And McAfee anti-spam. McAfee used to have a product called as, McAfee is known for antivirus, right? Most of you may be aware. Okay, so they also had a product called as anti-spam. If I have time, I'll talk about this, but this, I'm talking about the 2007 time when AI application of AI in software was not as much. So they use a rule-based filtering mechanism to filter the content and monitor the content. Okay, so these are some of the examples that I'd like to cover. Okay, so I have some questions also in between. If I'd like for you to just raise your hand or just speak from where you are. Can you just read this question and respond? What would be the answer? I spoke about this a few minutes back, but that's okay if you don't remember. But you can try it applying. Answer is A. Huh? What is that? You said D or D? That's okay. I think there is no D. No? Yeah, you're right. I think it's D. I think that YouTube example that I gave, that COVID vaccine, they had to adapt because society, a lot of changes were happening. They had to adapt their algorithms to adapt to the changing routines in the society which were happening. Okay. Are we okay till now? Huh? Shall I go slow or fast, or it is okay? Okay, so I think I use this term vocabulary because when you're learning something new, it is important to learn the vocabulary of it. When we started learning language, we started learning vocabulary, like some initial word which are there, A, B, C, D, or any other language. So content monitoring and filtering also has certain vocabulary that we use. Okay, and it is important to understand before we get into the application of generative AI. What does that mean? Okay, so we are talking about two things today. One is content monitoring and filtering. Other is generative AI at the intersection of it. Okay. So traditional definition of content like I said some time back, is any form of media, data or information that is shared digitally. Okay, now everything happens digitally, right? I think amount of time we spend on our phones is disproportionate to what used to happen 10 years back, right? And this includes and a lot of information that we communicate happens over digitally, right? I think we share something on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. We share text through WhatsApp or even audio through WhatsApp. That is also a form of content. We share videos, audio file, and even metadata, right? Something like I sent to uh, the cab that I came in, I sent in the location, right? That's a metadata of information. If I'm sending an email to you, my email address is a metadata which goes along with the content of email which is there. Okay, so content definition is clear. Like anything which is sent digitally to you know to the medium. So what is content monitoring? What is content monitoring? Can anyone read this? I don't want to read. Can you read this? Yeah, please. Just read it.
Content monitoring involves observing, tracking, and analyzing content to ensure it aligns with rules, policies, and legal guidelines.
Yeah. Okay. So what are the keywords here? Observing.
Observing,
Yeah.
tracking, analyzing.
Yeah, tracking, analyzing, right? So you think of it as the data is coming from WhatsApp, your WhatsApp to my WhatsApp, and there is there is a lens which is checking, monitoring what is coming, and by the way, WhatsApp data is all encrypted. Nobody should be able to see. At least that's what Facebook says, Meta says, but who knows? So monitoring involves somebody looking at the data which is happening. For example, if we access a website, whichever website we access, it gets logged to the ISP that you have. You have Jio or Airtel. In their logs, it will be there that you access this website at this time, right? So content monitoring involves observing, tracking, and analyzing. So you not only observe, you also track, you analyze. Okay. It also includes after you observe what you do, you analyze, like whether this data is right or not, right? If a child accidentally goes through a website which he or she is not supposed to go, then content, parental control software which is there, it will monitor the link is clicked, and it will also analyze this is not the right click, and it will flag it that this is not the right thing. So that is what happens in content monitoring. So any digital data which is sent from point A to point B, you are monitoring that. The systems are monitoring that and does. So how is filtering different? So if monitoring does the observing and tracking and analyzing part, filtering does what? It controls the access, right? It controls the access. So filtering is a process of using tools and algorithms to prevent access to certain type of content, often based on predefined rules. Okay, so lot of content filtering happens during election times. Like all the tools like Facebook or Twitter, etc. They have content filtering mechanisms. Okay, they have the government guidelines. Second, they have their own community and tool guidelines. And then there is an algorithm which knows both government and tool guidelines, like community guidelines, and it flags whether this content is right or not, inappropriate or not, etc. Okay, and it is also normally used in corporate policies. So in companies also, if you go normally, for example, in college also, there are some of the do's and don'ts which are written. There may be some software which helps. For example, if you put a pen drive with a virus, there will be some tool which will come up which will monitor, like antivirus, which will say that it is not there, this is not the right file that you should download. So content filtering does the access control, it helps to filter the content and helps to do the access control. Then there is something which is called as false positives and negatives. Can someone read it from this side, the slide? Or why don't you read it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, false positive occur when content is incorrectly flagged as appropriate. For example, you're applying to a college in the US or UK, and they send you an email, which is a valid email from a college, and it goes to a spam filter. What is it? How will you classify that? Is it a false positive or false negative? False positive, right? It is a false positive because someone valid person sent you an email and it went to spam, which is a false positive. It was not supposed to be going there. What is a false negative in this case? If some fake university sends you an email and it lands in your inbox, like that, you have won 50,000 pounds. All of us have got those emails, right? Which is in our inbox, because that is a false negative. It was not supposed to be landing in our inbox, but it landed in our inbox in some ways. Okay, so that's a false negative. Understood? I think this. Okay. Then there is something called as proactive and reactive filtering. What does this mean? For example, Instagram. I assume all of you have Instagram or some social media account. But once you post something, before, unless and until you are like, if you post an inappropriate content which is against the guidelines which Instagram has mechanism on clicking post, it can block. So that is a proactive filtering. Okay. A reactive filtering is, for example, an author has written a book, and there are a lot of people who does not like that author on social media. They go to Amazon and they start filling in, bombarding the comments in there. And Amazon, when the comments are being bombarded, at that time they won't know that these are bad comments. After they reactively analyze it, then they'll figure out that this is something wrong and I should delete it later on. And it happens a lot in social media. Twitter, it happens like some content is deleted, and then they have to flag that this content was deleted because of whatever reasons it was there. So proactive and reactive filtering are also very important concepts which are there. And then normally 5 core concepts which comes when we talk about content filtering and monitoring is rule-based filtering. I gave you example of McAfee spam, and the way it used to work was, so today's spam are all driven, anti-spam software in Gmail and others, they are driven by AI, right? You don't need to define this is an inappropriate word, this is an appropriate word. But back in the day when I was working in McAfee anti-spam, it used to be rule-based filtering. So what does rule-based filtering mean? That you had a file which was encrypted, and that file had all the spammy words or inappropriate words listed down. And the software used to, before delivering email, it used to check whether the email has those words or not. And that is a rule, because you have set a rule, and software is checking the rule and going and deciding whether to deliver it or mark it as a spam later on. Okay, so but that became a nightmare over a period of time. Why it became a nightmare? Because we started supporting 10 languages. Okay, imagine you have to maintain that one file in 10 languages, where languages have different slangs for different things, and it won't be word-to-word translation. It was a nightmare to maintain. And the way you break systems are always more than way you can protect the system. That's why cyber attack still happens. People kept inventing some words like which were very difficult to maintain over a period of time. So rule-based filtering has limitations, but it is also in place. It is also early form of AI, you can say. Then there is ML filtering, which learns from the large data sets, making them adaptable to threats and unwanted content. So machine learning, by definition, it learns from the large data sets, and then essentially it does 2 things. One is regression, it is predicting, forecasting something, or it does classification. Like it will do whether this is spam or not, this is, picture is a cat or a dog, etc. So it does. So ML filtering also started coming in. Then there is NLP, because NLP is natural language processing, right? Natural language processing. So why is natural language processing important in the context of filtering? Because ML filtering can help you do the classification, but where natural language processing comes into picture is it helps you understand the context of, a word used in certain contexts can be sarcastic, a word used in other contexts cannot be sarcastic. So how will you know? You know via NLP, natural language processing, right? For example, there was this, there is this string like I love my dog, and that dog is a killer when it comes to catching cats. It's a normal sentence like, but without context, the killer can be seen like killer means when this guy is saying something which he is not supposed to say. So NLP actually helps to add that context into the whole situation, which adds. Real-time analysis we talked about, so it has to be real-time. I think today's systems have to do real-time monitoring because in absence of that, even wrong or misinformed content being in the wild for 2 hours can create all the havoc these days. Like imagine, any top political leaders, someone creates a deep fake and it is not detected in time and it stays in social media for 1 hour. It would have been shared like millions of times already by the time you react. So real time is important because as soon as the content is created, you have to have mechanisms to figure out whether it is right or not. And fifth is ethical and bias considerations, which is important because most of the AI systems are trained on what? Using what? Data, right? And data is, who creates the data? Humans create the data, unless it is a synthetic data. And all humans, whether we like it or not, have some bias, right? And that shows in the digital data also in some form. For example, I was telling, I asked ChatGPT something, and it gave me an analogy that this would be. Analogy would be the distance. Something takes from New York to Washington. I said, like, why do you always give me US example? I asked, chatbot, you can say like you are biased. So I said you are biased, but then suddenly said, okay, I'll give you India example like that. So I think it's trained on certain data, and we got to be very careful on what things we draw out of them. Okay, so these are the 5 core concepts. We'll move to the use case part, but before that, can you read this question and anyone can try and answer? What is the primary difference between content filtering and monitoring? So there is no prizes, no penalties for wrong answers, so you can give your. What is that? First? Yeah. A is right. Okay. Someone said A before, so A is the right answer. So, in context of content moderation, what does false positive means? We'll take 5 more seconds. B, yeah. So when appropriate content is mistakenly blocked or as inappropriate by system, like that US example that I gave. And then what is false negative? There is a psychology, wherever there is a negative term in a phrase, it is very hard for the mind to decipher. So false positive and negative are both like that. So what would be the answer here? B? Yeah. Someone says C, but actually it is B. Okay. So it is the answer is B here. So the system incorrectly allows inappropriate content to pass through. So that is an example of false negative. And these logics are inbuilt into the system. I think now AI does a lot of this thing, but a good content monitoring system and filtering system is the one which has low false positives and negatives. So when you test these systems, you test for these considerations also. Okay, I told at the beginning that there are 2 things like content monitoring and filtering, and then we are also talking about generative AI. I'm sure in the last 2 days you would have covered quite a bit about generative AI there. I'll cover, some basics, and where you think it is repeat, just flag it, right? Just flag the content I'm sharing. Just say, filter, monitor, say that, it is, we know this. Okay. So generative AI, anyone would want to define like what is generative AI? How would you define it? You can even read this, that's okay. Yeah, which generates something. Yeah, which I call it creativity unleashed through artificial intelligence. But as I'm realizing, I think this is as I'm realizing, generative AI has far greater application than only creating. It generates stuff. I think there is a big application in medicines which is coming in a big way right now. But how old is AI as a field? Anyone would want to make a guess? Yeah, 40s and 50s. There was this very interesting book, in case you're interested in reading, called as I forgot the name. I think it book which tracks the. I'll tell you after the break. I think it tracks the history of AI with the key figures who are there. You know, no, it was I think 1950s that Dartmouth conference which happened. John McCarthy was one of the first person who did that, but before that also there was a lot of work done. So John McCarthy got people together. 1950s we are talking about, right? Then what's new, right? Why suddenly last 2 years everyone is talking about AI? What happened on 30th November 2022? Something happened, right? Two years back. Like, these days we started to remember chatbots birthdays also. So ChatGPT was born actually 30th November. It came into our hand. Like I was in IMB. There was this conference on product management. So I was doing a fireside chat with one of the leaders from Kindle, which is a IT services, very big IT services company. I asked him, when you used ChatGPT for the first time, how did you feel? He said, fear and shock. And that is exactly, I think, most of the people who had seen previous way of working, they felt like fear and shock. What ChatGPT did was, AI, like all its applications are always behind the scenes, right? You watch Netflix recommendation system, you watch Amazon recommended product, I came from Formula till here, Google Maps, again using Google search. It's all always behind the scenes. So AI never did, common people could never do anything. It was a field which was constrained by the experts and the knowledge that they had. But what ChatGPT did was it democratized AI. Democratized AI means people like us, we can suddenly start to create something using AI, which was not possible earlier, right? So what it says is ChatGPT bought AI from behind the scenes where it was working from 70 years into our hands. And suddenly, I think when we work with corporates, you 5 years back, for example, you have to talk to a board member about blockchain technology, and he won't understand, he or she won't understand that because blockchain hard to understand, Web3 hard to understand. But then suddenly, when we started talking to board member leadership now, everyone has an opinion on AI. Why they have opinion on AI? Because they have tried it in their hands. So that is the power of what ChatGPT got into the fold. That they were actually, people could certainly do something with it. Okay. So some of these slides will be like this. I like to draw, like in the introduction, ma'am told that sketch note. So this is a form of a sketch note. I could not do all I would have loved to do, but I could not do all of them. So what powers generative AI? Is this a new concept, or I can we are fairly okay with this, right? I think so. So generative AI lies at the intersection of AI. Normally, when we go to the non-tech companies and work with them, they use AI and generative AI as a one for each other. Like AI and generative AI is same. I think one of the first things we tell is it's not the same. AI is a broad field, and it has a lot of things which are there. And generative AI really lies at the intersection of deep learning, large language models, and natural language processing. So it is ABC, right? A is coming together of ABC. A is algorithms. Algorithms became powerful over a period of time. B is big data. The internet scale data became available, and C is compute. Like companies like NVIDIA and Qualcomm, others, they started building systems which were which could process those kind of data in a parallel processing manner. So it is coming together of ABC that drove generative AI to what it is. It is most of the models which are there, ChatGPT and others, they are in losses, big losses right now, because the cost of running these systems is far ahead of what they are earning right now. But like they say, it is investment in the future because this technology will continue to evolve. Then there is something called as multimodal models. And anyone knows what is a multimodal model? What does a multimodal means? Yeah. So it is an AI that speaks, sees and hears. Okay. So for example, today ChatGPT rolled out the voice feature, the advanced voice feature to all the users. So all you can do, maybe later I can show a little bit on that. So all you can do is you can actually talk to the AI and it will generate things for you. Likewise, when ChatGPT 4.0 was released, one of the demos which was shown was a teacher and a student was sitting, and they were writing on a paper. They opened ChatGPT and the camera was put on the paper, and it was asked which is the longer side in the triangle, etc. So that is a AI that can see and speak, sees and hears. It can so multimodal this. So there are different modes of using AI. One is text, one is speech, one is video, etc. So this again becomes an important concept when we talk about content monitoring and filtering, because content is not only text content, right? It is everything which is there. Anyone heard about this paper? Attention is all you need. Yes? Huh? Hearing, right? Okay, I won't cover that. So, interesting thing about this paper is who wrote this paper? Not the name of the company. Which company did the scientists belong to? Google, right? And which company is ahead in AI right now? Everyone talks about? OpenAI. ChatGPT was, and Google is also ahead, but I think OpenAI actually just ran. So Google created this. They open sourced this paper. They sat on it. They didn't do much with this, but they took a startup like OpenAI to pick up this paper, stitch together the entire architecture, the entire ChatGPT as we see in current form, and bring it out to life. And this is one of the regrets which Sergey Brin, who started Google, recently said that we sat over it too much. They open sourced it, which is fine, but someone else moved faster than them and went ahead of it. So this is the basis of what is called as transformer architecture. Okay, so in ChatGPT, what does GPT stand for? Anyone? Transformer, generative, pre-trained transformer. So T comes from transformer, right, which is an architecture with drive. And this architecture is based on, since you've already spoke about it, I won't do. It is based on the paper which is there. Attention is all you need. And attention, it has three primary features. One is the self-attention, layers, and parallel processing. So before ChatGPT, large language model, what were the common text generation model which was used? What was that technique called? Anyone recalls? It was RNN, recurrent neural networks. So recurrent neural networks, which came before LLMs, and there was a lot of work which was done. It was great at processing the sequential data. Okay, but RNNs started having problem when the input became large. If you see some of the prompts currently, it is multi-line, multi-page prompts are there in ChatGPT. So RNNs, because it processed the data sequentially, it could not scale to having a multi-line output. It used to forget and hence produce inaccurate results. So transformer changed all that, right, with the attention mechanism and the parallel processing which came into picture. Okay. So I'd like to decipher this trend before we move on to some of the cases. Have you heard of this term, chat is the new search? What does this mean? Okay, before ChatGPT came into picture, most of the people used to go to Google as a first thing. Now, majority of search, if you are like me, I think Google is the fifth thing I try these days, not the first. There is ChatGPT, then there is Google Gemini, and then there is Claude Anthropic. Have you heard of Perplexity? Perplexity is a tool which is positioned to replace Google at some stage, but just try it out because if your work involves research, Perplexity is a great tool, and I'll tell you why also in some time. So, chat is the new search means that consumer behavior is changing, right? We rather than doing abstract search, we say that we will converse with a model in a chat interface, and that's what people started expecting with the new age applications which are coming. So chat, okay. English is the new coding. Anyone can tell what does this mean? English is the new coding. Okay, so English is the new coding means that these models, it denotes the ability to work with natural language is becoming as important as coding skills, because you can generate code now with natural language prompts. When I say natural language, English, I don't mean English. It can be local language also. You can generate code. You can do build applications just by writing text. And it has made there is a model called as Cloud Anthropic, which has made it deploying applications also very easy. You can, has anyone tried Claude Sonnet? Okay, I would advise you to try. You can actually create applications and deploy it also as web applications by just writing a few prompts of code. So English is a new coding also means that most of the new early jobs which were there, coding jobs, there is companies are putting question mark there that whether what percentage of that can be done by AI as against human would do that, right? I think this is a natural process of evolution of jobs which is happening right now. Sam Altman said this sometime back that amount of intelligence in the universe will double every 18 months. So in computing there used to be something called as Moore's law. So Moore's law, Jeffrey Moore said that number of transistors in the chip will double every 18 months. So Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI. He came up with this thing that because these AI models are becoming so ubiquitous, so high quality information is being made available to people, we can process more information faster in a highly digestible way. So this is also a trend which is happening. And the other trend which is happening in generative, because of generative AI, is that this thing that AI is the new UI. So what it means is that this is a device which is called as AI pin. You can search for it. Like you put it here. These are not widely available in India yet, but you put it here. It can do like you just converse with it, like click a picture, show me the way, open Google, etc. It will do all these things for you. And that device is called as Rabbit R1. So that also does, that is based on the concept that the future of devices will be that we won't have apps. We'll only have agents which will, talk to app and get things done. Like for example, you want to create a spreadsheet with certain data, you talk through it and it will, create it for you and then you work on it when you come back. So AI is the new UI which is happening 100%. We are seeing a lot happening in this area. But all is not good, like a lot of these models come with a lot of promise. Anyone can explain what is hallucination? False, right? It starts making up things, AI. Have you experienced it yourself? Like it makes up things, makes up facts. Like even if you're, copying it, AI output for your assignment, don't do that without checking, because it makes up things. There are a lot of places where AI, in early days, it used to even make up links. So I asked AI, like, give me some research output, and it used to give. And I said, like, give me the links where you saw this, and it, it used to just, make up links which were not clickable later on. So hallucination is one of the big problems in implementing AI, generative AI system, that they are AI creates false information. But there are other potential issues also that we should be aware of, even in the context of content filtering and monitoring. What are these issues? One is, number one is non-deterministic output. What does this mean, non-deterministic output? It means that generative AI system, if you give the same prompt at two different times, it is very likely that you may get two different responses, either slightly different or a totally different response. And the reason for that is that it is based on, it is based on statistical modeling. These models don't store facts. These models store probabilities and they predict what the next text should be. Bias in training data we talked about that it has context window length. Anyone would want to share like what does this mean? Context window length. What is context window in context of generative AI apps? Okay, so context window is all the AI models have something called a short-term memory. So what is a short-term memory? That you are in a chat and you open a chat session in ChatGPT and you type like 5-6 questions. If your context short-term memory is exhausted, then it will still allow you to chat, but it will forget where you started with, and it will start giving you false input. So context window is normally measured in tokens. Like there is a terminology called tokens. So token is equivalent of one or more words. It is not same as words. So it is measured in tokens. So early systems which came, ChatGPT 3.5, they used to have a context limit of 4096 token. Now ChatGPT has context limit, the short-term memory of around 128k token, 128,000 tokens. But Google Gemini is the chatbot which has the maximum short-term memory. It can have around 1 million tokens which are there right now. But it's important to understand because you start getting wrong responses from AI because it will forget after the context window is exhausted, it will forget where it started from. Okay. Difficulty in detecting nuance. I think nuance means again context. So these systems are getting better, but sometimes they won't understand your context to give you better responses till you prompt very well on this. And transparency and explainability is another issue because right now if you ask ChatGPT help me generate an answer, it will help you generate an answer and ask it to explain. It will explain, but it won't give the sources from how it generated the answer. Right? I think it won't generate sources because it won't have sources. Even if it gives, it is making things up. Okay, so that's why the tool like Perplexity, which I talked about, it is a new age search engine. It gives you links also from where it has generated the responses. So the explainability part is that you can explain how you came up with the answer before we even start using it. Okay. Is it okay? Like any questions you have so far? Last slide on this section, like generative AI is not a silver bullet. I think this slide is slightly old. I think in the field of AI, even 3 months is old. I created this 3 months old, but I know some of the things which are in the middle have already moved to green. What this means is that there are certain use cases where generative AI is great for. There are certain use cases where generative AI is good for. There are certain use cases where generative AI is like poor. Where it is good for is text, image, video generation, synthetic data creation, like you can create test data on which you can create test a model, virtual assistant. Then there is chatbot and co-worker. But what it is medium good at is clustering, customer segmentation, object classification, though it is getting better. I think a lot of the, so ChatGPT, OpenAI came up with a new model called as O1. So O1, they call it, this is a model which is called as thinking model. And if you have used it, if you have not used it, I would advise you to use it. What it says, it is very slow. It is very slow because it thinks like human. Like if you ask me something I don't know, I'll say, okay, let me think and give you a response. I'll speak when I'm thinking about it. The model does the same thing. You can see, now I'm categorizing the input, now I'm generating the output, now I'm thinking whether this is right or not, then I'm going, it just operates like that. So because of the reasoning becoming more cheaper and better, some of these use cases are moving on the left hand side, but it is still not a great great technology for predicting risk predicting and all. I think if that's why we try and tell enterprises that use generative AI at your own risk if you are using it to predict whether I'll get better next quarter or not, because these are not prediction machines. Okay, yeah. Okay, and I'll move on to a part where I don't get to speak much. I think anyone would want to answer this question, just read it out. Why is the attention mechanism considered critical in the architecture of large language models like transformer models? Any guesses on this one? I didn't cover attention mechanism because you guys told that it was covered 2 days back. I didn't want to spend time, but just take a stab at it. No answer is a bad answer, incorrect answer. Only answer that is incorrect is which is not told. So please, what did you say? I heard some A. Yeah, actually answer is A. So attention mechanism, I told about RNNs. So RNNs, which is recurrent neural networks, it used to process the data in sequence. But what attention mechanism or attention is all you need, that paper got into picture was that like human beings, it started processing text. When I say like human beings, it means like if I give you a sentence, say, despite heavy rain, the cricket match continued because players were willing to play, okay, something like this. So if it was a RNN, recurrent neural network, it will take despite heavy rain, match continued, one letter at a time, okay. Whereas if we humans have to process that text, how will we do? We say despite heavy rain means there is some challenging situation. The match continued, the event happened despite that challenging situation, and third part is the cause because of which happened, because player wanted to play. So we process sentences like that. So attention mechanism brought in that kind of discipline into algorithm. How? By, you can think of it as a spotlight. It used to spotlight in a given sentence, these three, despite heavy rain, is a important than or the whatever sentence which is put there. And this is what it means by focus on specific parts which are more important, where it assigned more weight to generate stuff. Okay. I think we have. I can talk about use cases, but we'll take break in what, 10 minutes? 11? Oh, 11. Okay. Okay. We have time. I can cover one case. Is there any questions you have so far? It only means two things, like you're getting everything or you're not getting anything. Okay. So I'll tell some stories, right? Stories are always better than the plain text. So I talked about this gun culture in the US and all that stuff. So when I was at Walmart, I was invited to a meeting, and this meeting did not have any subject line and all that stuff, etc. And I and my boss was invited, and I asked him. He said, "I also don't know." And that meeting turned out to be an interesting one, because Walmart in 2022 had a gun incident inside. Like in the Walmart in the US, I think there was one incident where employee only started, started the guns. And but there were also incidents which were increasingly happening now, where people come from outside with gun and they start to create havoc, right? So this was a situation that Walmart was trying to solve at that time. And one of the systems that they were assessing at that time, and I got some exposure to it, I think I worked on it more as a consultant, was what is called as automatic weapon detection to prevent mass shooting. And this is a very interesting use case for content monitoring and filtering. Okay. So what did these systems do? These systems were designed, and there is this company where I've taken this image, which is VISO.ai, and there were a few other vendors who we spoke with as a part of that. who are designing these systems, which in real time could, through the series of cameras, can assess people who are coming, and in that spur of a moment decide whether anyone is carrying a gun and has intent to go and hit. And if you start to think about it, these systems are very there are both false positive and false negative. There is a lot at stake here. Like if they fail to detect something which was an incident in the time that was supposed to happen, you only have time from, I'm walking from parking to the, and in that moment they have to decide, monitor the content, decide whether person has the intention to, use his gun, or whether he's carrying the gun or she is carrying the gun or not, and alert it, and security team to come in and neutralize this guy. So there is a lot at stake in a system like this. But this, it turned out, as I look back, I think it turned out to be a very good use case for content monitoring and filtering. So what is content here? Like, I think I talked about content as a definition, like anything which is digital. So what would be content here? So content here is visual data which is captured by surveillance cameras, right? There are cameras everywhere. Not one camera, there are multiple cameras which are there, which have to be always, capture the proceedings which are happening. And there are a lot of people who visit Walmart, and to be able to figure out, person XYZ has the intention to go and hit. So content is the visual data captured by surveillance cameras, which includes video streams and the individual frames extracted from those streams. You imagine like what's happening in a system like this, right? If you start to think about this, there has to be hardware infrastructure that has to be put in, and then there has to be a system that captures the live feed, and we don't have a luxury of monitoring the live feed 3 days later. It has to happen there and then, that someone looks into that, and it has to have a way to accurately classify the images or the content, whether the person is carrying the gun, and then report back to the authority, and the authority comes and takes the action. And this was at stake, and that's why this meeting was little confidential, because they don't make too much noise about it, that we have these kind of systems, because once you say I have this system installed, then we as humans will find some other ways to build these systems there. But these are very, very necessary from the security standpoint. So how they work, right? This was my understanding, which when I sort of recalled. So I worked on assessing this like 2-3 years back. So basically, first part is video input and pre-processing, right? Where surveillance cameras are there and image enhancement algorithms are there. Why are image enhancement algorithms needed? Because it's not the video output which is being analyzed. The way these systems are architected, they capture frames from the images. Like every minute there will be certain frames that they will capture, and those have to be captured in a high quality image. Otherwise, if you like whatever, like if you detect this as a gun, then the credibility has a stake, right? You cannot say. So it has to be very high quality system which is in place. Frame extraction also means that this video decoding software are installed, and they are actually doing it in the real time. And an average 1080 pixel camera can generate the approximately 20 to 30 GB of data every day from this, and it requires a very massive sort of a storage systems which needs to be there. Then comes the deep learning and model application, and it used convolutional neural networks, which are mostly used for image generation. I think this is a models which are optimized for image generation, and there is and this particular thing used a model called as YOLO. YOLO is you only look once, which means that the traditional CNN systems, what they used to do was they used to break the images into parts and then assess each and every part of the image, and then say this part can be done. Whereas model like YOLO, what it does is, it just processes single image and breaks the image into grids and then try to identify. And it was very fast and optimized, which was needed for these systems. And then object detection and classifications layer was there in the system which used to do, which is here. I'm trying to do this. Okay, which is, and then real-time processing, which I said is one of the core principles of monitoring. It was very important because you have to not only process the images which are like 30, 40, 50 images per second or something like that, which are frames which were broken down, and they had to have a farm of high performance computing GPUs which were there. Without that, it was not possible. And then what these guys, VISO guys also did was they invested in edge computing, so that not everything they had to send to server. Edge means that it is happening in the periphery of your system, like entire compute is happening there. It is not sent to cloud, and you lose time there. So edge computing was an important aspect there. And then post processing was important because after object detection, you have to have mechanisms to build confidence that this is the right image that we are talking about. And then it used to go through the alert generation notification system, which used to get integrated with the security software that Walmart stores had. And then I think there was also this aspect of continuous learning, which used to happen on the newer images which were coming there. So it was a highly complex system which had to work 100% in a real time to generate the output. When I did the assessment of this, generative AI was obviously in the early stages, it had not come. So I did try and imagine, how will generative AI improve this automatic weapon detection? Anyone would want to make a guess based on whatever we know? Like how would, what portions do you think, you can read also, but what portions do you think it will help? Generative AI will help here. Any guesses like now? Which one? No, in this case, automatic weapon generation. Where will generative AI come into picture? The quality, right? The quality should be the first part, and the quality was again actually came in the first part only pre-processing. The new age system, I think the generative AI systems, ChatGPT uses something called as DALL-E, if you have seen. They work on the image generation architecture, which if you've seen, the AI generated images are always high quality, which almost look like inhuman-like. I think there is a big application of generative AI in the image quality enhancements. I think there are already a lot of tools which are there which helps you generate, like if you open Canva, you will see image quality enhancement, which was a very table stakes here. Like if you capture a wrong image or which is blurred or not good, then I think it will go for the whole thing will go for a toss. And other thing which the models are getting, generative AI models are getting better is object detection and classification. You can try it yourself. Give if you have not tried already, give ChatGPT or any other tool that you are using a technical diagram and ask it to break the diagram. It does a great job of classifying even the things it does not know. So one of the applications that one of the startups I'm working with, what we are building is what is called as for remote working. Like one of our friends was sitting remote and attending to this lecture, and I was writing something on whiteboard. It would be very difficult for that person to know. So we are trying to solve that problem, and that uses generative AI. Like you have a system that can capture the board in real time, and it can help to classify that. This is a text box. This is this letter which is written. So they are getting better. So I think these systems are getting used for object detection and classification, and also I think I would say continuous learning also. Why continuous learning? Because generative AI again is used for the self-supervision sort of learning models, where if you feed in the existing data, it generates that test data and classifies it, labels it, auto-labels it. That can be used for model training later on. Normally these systems are pre-trained in that sense. Okay. Okay, I think these are some of the principles that I derived from this this case basically. Anyone would want to read that who has not written this? I think the first part, or do you want me to nominate you to read? why don't you read? Yeah, that's okay. I'm telling you.
Content monitoring,
Yeah.
real-time responsiveness is critical.
Yeah.
Monitoring must happen in real time to promptly identify threats and initiate action.
Right.
High quality data is essential. Ensure the content being monitored is clear and well processed for better analysis design. Scalability and continuous operation. Systems should be designed to scale processing large volumes of data from multiple sources without downtime.
Yeah, I think all these are critical, right? I think in this, if a weapon detection system, monitoring and filtering system has a downtime, what will happen? Or a person hacks into this system and says that, I'll bring it down and then go inside the store. I think they have to be highly available all the time. I think there's a lot at stake, like I said. High quality data we talked about, the images cannot be bad in that sense. And real-time processing is important. I cannot process this data 2 days later after the incident has happened. So it has to be alerted there and then. And that's why, one of the reasons why NVIDIA became #1 company in the world is all these high-stakes applications require farm of GPUs, the graphic processing units, which runs the AI models. And the demand for these is, after generative AI came into being, one company that has earned more money than all the other companies put together is NVIDIA. And they have done it because they own the infrastructure layer, which is there in full. Okay, in content filtering also, intelligent filtering through deep learning is important. Again, speed is very important and accuracy both. And detection of false positives and negatives. You cannot catch a person with a vegetable and call it a gun. I think you will be in a difficult situation then. And proactive alerts for human intervention. So human alerts should be sent on time for these systems to work properly. So generative AI is proving to be beneficial for systems like this. But in corporate application of generative AI, there is one big consideration which is there, is the ROI, right, the cost. Because cost of building this on generative AI models, which bleed a lot of money right now, is very high. So you need to make that trade-off whether we use the traditional algorithms or you move to the generative AI for these purposes. Okay, I think this question I have. So. And anyone would want to answer that. So how does generative AI improve real-time processing step in the weapon detection system? By increasing data storage requirements, A. B is by reducing models accuracy. C is by decreasing latency and compute requirements. And D is by requiring more frequent manual updates. How will it improve? No, actually it is, I would also argue whether this is right, but of all the options, this is the more correct option, not like 100% correct. I think there is latency in these systems still, but they can be optimized. Like there are different streams of generative AI systems which are coming, which are, you have heard this term called as 7 billion parameter, 400 billion parameter. So the smaller models can be fine-tuned for a very specific data that they can just work to identify only guns or weapons of mass destructions and all. So that can be used to decrease latency and compute requirements rather than using a very elaborate OpenAI type big model which is there. Okay. Any questions till now? Like anything you found interesting, not interesting? Good or bad? We have time, right, for break? We have 10 minutes. I can start this, it won't be finished in 10 minutes, but this is actually one of the very interesting applications. Any questions you have that we can discuss or no? Okay. So I'll start this case with a statement, right? I think we'll just break midway. If I say cybersecurity is a data science problem, what would you infer from this? cybersecurity is a data science problem. What are the attributes of a data science problem? So you will apply data science only in the situation, or majorly in the situation where you have a lot of data, right? And one of the things, and this is like I've taken it from the company I worked with, but it has a very interesting application in content monitoring and filtering, and by uh, breaking down the normal definition of the what we consider as content. Okay. So cybersecurity is a data science problem. I'll come to this part in a bit, but it's actually a fact in the bigger companies. Cybersecurity is actually a data science problem. Okay, but before I come to concluding this, maybe before the break, I just want to cover a few core concepts about cybersecurity. Very simple. I think one is, if you see this green layer here, it is your organization's digital boundary. Okay, in late 90s, when internet was not there, what was your organization digital boundary? It was same as the, like, if this is my company and my data cannot go out, it is same as the walls of this room. So that is the boundary, because I cannot take my device outside. So digital boundary means that wherever your data is going. So in late 90s, where there was no internet, no mobile devices, wherever you worked, your desktop, that was your boundary, because maximum that you could do was to bring a floppy drive and take that data out, etc. So your digital boundary defines where your digital data goes. Okay. Then there is something called as attack surface. Attack surface. What is attack surface? So all the things in your devices or software that can be attacked in an organization. It can be your Windows system, it can be your mobile phone, it can be your Linux system, it can be your server, etc. Okay? What can be attacked, or it can be a code which is open in the system. And then there is something called as attack vector. If attack surface is what can be attacked, attack vector is how it can be attacked. So one example of how is phishing. Phishing is an attack, right? Phishing is a way in which you can attack, execute an attack. I'll give an example of what I'm trying to say. In the PC era, the attack surface was limited, which was primarily physical access and simple malware. What does that mean? You are this circle because you only had these kind of devices, like only desktop computers. Those of you, I don't think many of you have seen that time, but it used to be only the physical devices. Then how you can attack a physical devices? You can do a virus attack, majorly propagated through floppy drive or a CD drive. You put an infected CD and it used to say, like, create havoc into your system. Or it can be a malware, or it can be file. So Microsoft Word and all, you can create macro. At that time also you could create macro and create malware. So it was a relatively simple era from cybersecurity standpoint, right? You have attack surface which is limited and very few attack vectors. So these are attack vectors, how system can be attacked, and this is your attack surface, then only few things can be tampered with. But when internet era came, suddenly this circle became bigger. Okay, what does that mean? So you have internet, you suddenly had laptop, portable devices started coming in, and with that also came a lot of new type of attack, phishing. Anyone knows what is phishing? So phishing is like a fish, like you're catching a fish, like someone else impersonates your boss or a professor and sends you an email, but that's a fake email, and you get tracked to clicking a link which can lead you to, all the undesirable things. Then there is something called as DDoS attack. What is a DOS attack? Denial of service. Right? You barge into a web server. You put a lot of packets into it. You bring that server down because it is not able to. So those things started becoming a new attack vector. So newer ways for you to barge into organization. But when social media era started with Facebook and anyone knows Orkut here? Orkut used to be one social media at one time in 2007. So the attack surface continued to get bigger because you had newer ways. There was something called as credential stuffing, like your credentials of Gmail, etc. are available in dark web. They can be taken down and sold to anyone on social media, etc. But all hell broke loose when cloud and mobile era started because two things. One is you suddenly started with mobile devices carrying your organization data outside. Like, I'm sitting here, I have my company data here, right? If I don't have proper checks in place, with the phone gone, my company data will also go. Very tricky situation. And cloud, what happened? What companies did in cloud era? They started putting their production work environment, like their websites are running, they're running on cloud. They're not owning the infrastructure, someone else is. Which means that your attack surface is bigger. It is not only the devices you own, but the cloud which someone else like Amazon, Microsoft owns. And this circle became very big. And then a lot of more types of attacks started coming in. I talked about ransomware. Ransomware came in this generation only, where people can barge into your cloud storage, take your data, and say, I'll give you your data only if you pay me $100 billion. I won't give. That is a ransomware. So these started coming, and you're seeing, right, as we move across eras, attack surface started getting bigger, and the way your organization can get attacked also started getting bigger. Okay, and then came generative AI era, and this kind of filled in all other remaining part of the circle which were there because it brought in newer types of way in which your organizations can be attacked. What are the newer types of ways? In 2023, Samsung banned ChatGPT from their organization. You know why they banned? Data leakage, right? Data leakage. What some, not like, I won't say fault of engineers because company allowed it in first place. They put source code, which is an intellectual property, onto ChatGPT. Without knowing that, ChatGPT uses the data that you put on prompt to learn, make its models better. So they put it there and they figured out, and even the company I was working on, our CEO told, if I see anyone using ChatGPT for coding, you will be fired. I only remember the last 3 words, you will be fired, and in company we never used it. Okay. So the point is that these kind of generative AI applications are bringing in newer type of attacks, which are more data specific. I'll give you another example, which is a model inversion attack. What is a model inversion attack? You know face recognition system. In research, some people tried and they worked around the face recognition system. So every time they gave certain input to fool the system and see how it behaved, and 5-6 times or whatever number of times they did, it learned from the data and inverted the way the model was supposed to behave. It tricked the model to get it. And it happens a lot in, I think there was a study done on healthcare side. So certain model was trained on patient data. Someone prompted it 5-6 times and it got the patient data on which it was trained. So these are model inversion attacks, which are, your data which is abstracted behind the model can be taken out in certain ways. Then there was also an incident of model stealing that happened with a company like Facebook Meta. One of their models got released onto AI model website much before it was supposed to be launched. And it can be an insider job or I don't know, but I think models also have a tendency of getting stolen. So generative AI era is also bringing in newer type of threats which are there. Okay, I think it's 11. We can break if it is tea is ready. I think I can cover but after I cover, I'll start with that statement: cybersecurity is a data science problem. Okay, thank you. I think let's meet after the break. Yeah.